This is IE America Radio Network News. I'm Erica Kane. The shock and awe phase of Operation Iraqi Freedom is now underway. At the Pentagon, Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld confirms the air war in Iraq has begun.
To end the regime of Saddam Hussein by striking with force on a scope and scale that makes clear to Iraqis that he and his regime are finished.
Massive explosions have shaken Saddam Hussein's presidential complex in central Baghdad as the U.S. launched its largest aerial bombardment since the start of the war in Iraq. Fires raged on the ground and smoke is pouring into the Baghdad sky. This morning, the U.S. House joined the Senate in approving a resolution of support for President Bush and U.S. troops. Terry Moore reports.
The Senate vote was unanimous. South Dakota Democrat Tim Johnson has a personal stake in the war.
As a father with a son serving as a sergeant in the 101st Airborne, now in the Iraqi theater, I understand the mix of pride and fear that family members are feeling at this time.
In the early morning House vote, a few members voted no, a few others voted present. Some Democrats protested President Bush's decision to go to war.
I'm John Silva in Hartford.
Malloy here on Resistance Radio. Thank you very much for joining us. 7:30 past the hour. Program produced by Catherine Bay. Robin Bittman announces for us. The phone number here is 800-TALK-YES, 800-825-5937. Right before the program, I got something here from Liberal Slant, written by D. Grant Haynes. We have entered into a long night of spiritual darkness. Show me no flags, please. Many helpless and innocent people are suffering and dying in Iraq now, as a malevolent American administration rains an unprovoked and unprecedented fusillade of death and destruction into Iraq's densely populated urban centers in the opening volley of an unjust war that should not occur. Thousands are dying at this moment. Tens of thousands die in the next days and weeks as the most powerful nation on earth pummels from the cowardly safety of ships at sea and high-flying aircraft, a largely defenseless third-world country that has done Americans no harm. This is a dark and shameful hour. May the people of Iraq who are making their transitions today, who are dying, most especially the children, be comforted and ushered across the void by ever-present angels of mercy and love, and may they disembark on a brighter and more peaceful shore, one where Bush, with his bombs and missiles and bristling armadas, can no longer threaten and terrorize them. From liberal veteran, that's his name at Democratic Underground, I guess. Mike, all the people who are cheering the bombing of Baghdad and the deaths of civilians need to be reminded of the disgust that we all felt at the pictures of Palestinians dancing in the streets on September 11th. So many people claim to be repulsed and shocked by that reaction. But aren't we seeing the same thing among many of our own people? If you read this on the air, just call me liberal veteran, because that is what I am. And this veteran has never been more ashamed to be an American than I am today. I don't know if you saw it. You probably did. I sat here in the studio and watched. This is the United States attacking a truly defenseless third world country. And that was just Baghdad. Donald Rumsfeld at the Pentagon press briefing when the bombing ceased.
It seems to me that we're moving relatively freely toward Baghdad. General Myers talked about we're 100 miles inside. There's reports of surrenders. Yet we keep talking about this overwhelming force that we're prepared to use. I'm wondering, are you concerned at all that we will be seen as a bully?
The United States and the coalition forces have taken every conceivable step, diplomatic, economic, and ultimatum, and a careful, measured beginning. What we are currently doing could not, by any stretch of the imagination, fit what you just said.
And you wonder, if you do, why I and many people call this man insane. What we are currently doing, he said, could not by any stretch of the imagination fit what you just said, that we'll be seen as a bully. We're not bullies. The United States government now, under George W. Bush, is in the process of committing war crimes for which they should be tried like any out-of-control, murderous regime that since the 1940s has been brought into the dock for those crimes. As much as I love the institutions of my country, I love our Constitution. We've had our dark moments of history, but we've tried to reconcile those dark moments of history, whether it has been slavery or targeted assassinations. But I'll tell you, today I am deeply, deeply ashamed to call myself an American citizen. Deeply ashamed. We'll be covering pretty much today, at least in this first hour, the protests that are going on globally, not just in this country, but on just about every continent on the planet, because of this cowardly, violent, murderous act that George W. Bush and his cabinet have unleashed against the people of Iraq. This is a dark day. This is a filthy day. This is a day for shame. Utter, absolute shame.
We've just seen the first war of the 21st century, and there's universal approval of the statements I have made, and I'm confident there will be universal approval of the actions this government takes.
We're at 800 Talk Yes. Stephen is calling from Alabama. Stephen, welcome to the program.
Thank you. How you doing today?
Not good.
Well, I'm on the other end of the spectrum, but I appreciate us being able to talk about it. Can you refresh the listeners your thoughts on 1998 and Operation Desert Fox, how you felt then? Your comments and feelings about the attack then on Iraq.
Well, I thought they were stupid then. Not quite as stupid as they are now, because the attacks ordered by Clinton in 98 had to do with some jive turkey nonsense about Pappy Bush over in Kuwait to line his pockets with more money, and there was a report. There was a report. Shut up, sir. If you ask me a question, I'll answer it. Now, I don't have any tolerance for you people today, okay? You right-wingers, you death-dealing warmongers, I have no tolerance for you at all. The false reports that were generated about Pappy Bush, that somebody was going to take a shot at his worthless ass, and in response to that, Bill Clinton sent missiles into southern Iraq. Now, what's your point?
My point is, the bottom line is Iraq got bombed, right? and we didn't have the people jumping in.
He was everybody's president, you moron. He was elected. He was elected, not like this asswipe that's in office now that was appointed by the Supreme Court. Look, go away, okay? I don't want to hear from you people today. I really, really don't. You make me sick. You just make me sick. What you people ought to do is secede from the Union, okay? Just get the hell out. Form your own little totalitarian dictatorship where you can sit around and do for these thugs what Monica did for Bill. I know you'd be happy. Don't call the program today, because I don't want to hear from you. You make me sick. Absolutely make me sick. And this is just not a day when I can draw into my, like Peter Werby does, into my Tai Chi calmed core and tolerate you animals. I want nothing whatsoever to do with you. RJ is calling from San Jose, California.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, RJ.
Yeah, I tried to call you the other day, and I had to run off because I had a lunch appointment. But if you don't mind me sharing a little,
sure,
hopefully humorous bit here. When I was reading the news and I saw the declaration by the Homeland Security Office that they were now launching Operation Liberty Shield, I swear to God, the first thought that went through my mind was, it's a feminine hygiene product.
Liberty Shield.
Yeah, it keeps your civil rights fresh, even though people are trampling them with their jackboots. And next up from the Bush regime, of course, is that lovely product, gee, your rhetoric smells like bullshit. Pardon my French there.
Well, now, see, you can't do that on the program.
I'm sorry, Mike.
Okay? You
okay,
can't.
all right.
Okay,
I promise I won't do it again.
See, by the rules, I'm supposed to just hang up now and move on to the next caller. I'll let you proceed. But please don't. All you folks, don't do that. This is not... I know you're listening on the Internet, but we do have radio stations that carry this program, and I can't allow that to go on. All right, go ahead.
Sorry about that, Chief.
That's all right.
But the thing I was calling about was that a bit of refreshing news to read is in the San Francisco Chronicle. On page 3 of their first section, which normally it's listed as, alphabetical, A, B, C, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
They've retitled their first section of the paper W, as in war reporting. And on page 3, they have an article about the SF police playing catch-up with yesterday's protesters.
Right.
Now, I don't know what the news looked like outside of San Francisco, but I caught a little bit of CNN and various, and the headline was, San Francisco police arrest, 1,000, 1,300, whatever the number of protesters were.
Can I get you to hold?
Sure.
All right, hold right there while we take a quick break. 27 before the hour, we're talking with RJ in San Jose. RJ, thanks for holding on. Now, you were talking about the police trying to catch up with the demonstrators in San Francisco.
Yeah, this was published in the San Francisco Chronicle. It's also in their online edition at www.sfgate.com under a link that says Hit and Run, New Form of Civil Disobedience, or Hit and Run, New Form of Civil Disobedience. And it's an interesting article about how it wasn't a large peace march in the traditional sense, but the group was moving hither and yon and shutting this one area down, and as the cops moved in to try to stop them, two things would happen. Either the police themselves, in trying to round them up, would create more of a traffic jam than the original protesters, or the protesters would just get up and move off before the police could actually track them down. And the part of the story that I want to read here, because I know there's a lot of people like yourself that are feeling shot down, pardon the expression, by everything that's going on, and the notion of, is there anything that can be accomplished? Are the things people doing actually making a difference? And I want to read this. This is the last 3 paragraphs of the story. Officer Drew Cohen, who was documenting the police response on his camcorder for the department, said he came away with a respect for demonstrators' tactics. They succeeded this morning. They shut the city down, Cohen said. They're highly organized, but they're totally spontaneous. I think police are doing a great job, but the protesters are always a few steps ahead of us. Our success, the police success, will come when we arrest so many of them. We have depleted their ranks, Cohen said. Otherwise, we can only play catch-up. And I can't tell you how cheered I was to read that.
Well, Shelby LaPrey, who runs radiopower.org and lives in the Pittsburgh area, said the same tactic was used successfully in Pittsburgh yesterday, where crowds of people, it's kind of like The nearest thing I could think of is when you watch the Animal Channel, Animal Planet, and they have the big schools of fish darting hither and yon. There are millions of fish in the school, but by some transmitted signal that we don't understand, they shift and go a different direction. And I think that's an excellent tactic. It's very easy to control and contain 10,000, 50,000, even 100,000. Look what happened in New York back on March 15th. Or was it March 15th or February 15th, I guess, when the parade permit was denied, and tens of thousands of people showed up, but they were funneled into one area and therefore controlled. It's got a point, I think, has to be made to the civil authorities that we will not be contained and controlled. They can't arrest us. That's their job. Our job is to stop this murderous bastard who now operates out of the White House, who runs this government. That's our job, is to stop him. And the police have a job, and that is to arrest us if they see fit to do it. Now, I understand something like 1,200 to 1,500 people were arrested in this country yesterday. We need to get that up to 1 million people arrested, 10 million people arrested.
That number, according to the Chronicle, they're saying 1,300 people in San Francisco
alone
were arrested in 16 hours yesterday.
Okay.
So that's just San Francisco alone.
That's just San Francisco, right? Yeah.
And the thing I heard from folks who were in the city, and I don't know how much it came across the news. The one clip I saw, a video, was of some guy getting out of his stupid, useless vehicle and trying to beat up protesters. You know, the violence that got the 30-second clip was not a protester. It was some guy in an SUV inflicting violence on people.
Oh, yeah, some jackass like the person that I had the courtesy to put on my program until he starts talking like the vermin that he is. But that's going to...
Sorry, not to cut.
Go ahead.
What I want to mention here is that the folks I know who were in the city who had business were walking through the financial district on foot traffic, going against the grain of the crowds, of the people trying to demonstrate, looking pretty mundane, suit and tie kind of look, got no grief. They were walking upstream from the salmon pretty much, but people got out of the way. There was no pushing, jostling. There was no verbal abuse, nothing.
Right.
So,
the arrests are deliberately designed to, more shock and awe, to convince Americans that we do not have a right to protest what this madman in the White House is doing, and what his collection of insane people who are now running this country. We are supposed to be intimidated, and I'll tell you, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen this weekend. I know here in Atlanta, in the heart of the financial district downtown Atlanta, there's going to be a demonstration. I have no idea how many people will show up. We will be there
good luck to you.
Just faces in the crowd.
Yeah.
And I would hope that thousands will turn out. But this is Redneckville, and by redneck I don't mean a racial characterization. I mean a mindset. This is Atlanta. This is the South. This is Georgia. And so many white people in the South have just had their brains fried. It's just so thoroughly by the white racist talk show hosts that are on the air down here, by this military mindset. This is the South. We had our asses kicked and kicked severely by the North during the Civil War, and a lot of white people this has been handed down and handed down and handed down. So there's thuggery here of the highest order, the kind of thuggery that exists in the South. You don't find in the Southwest or the West or the Midwest, Northeast. It's real thuggery.
Well, I grew up in and around Chicago. I understand what you're talking about in a slightly different sense, but I do understand.
Right.
The one thing that just popped into my mind while you're talking about that is that, and this is a hard thing for people who are protesting the actions of the Bush regime to remember and to act on, but I think it's vitally important, is that every time that there's a film clip of somebody on the side of the protesters, on the side of the angels, that reacts to violence with violence, it undermines the position that people are taking. And I'm just reminded of the efforts of Gandhi and of Martin Luther King to say, okay, the cycle ends here. We do not meet violence with violence. We meet violence with principled moral opposition. And if that means we get our butts whomped until we're black and blue and our blood is running in the streets, then that's what we do. Because if we don't, then we're saying that our moral position has a right to use the tools that we oppose. And I realize it's easy to say that. I'm sitting here on the phone talking to you on the radio, but if the people who believe that this invasion has no moral standing, is not legal in any international sense, want to impress upon people who are unaware of it. And I think there's a lot of folks in this country that are not bad folks. They're just able to live in a very insisted way, a very little enclosure of their own bubble that says, keep all the bad stuff out. And they don't care where the bad stuff is coming from, whether it's coming from, Pappy Bush or his son, or it's coming from some long-haired freako peacenik saying, this is crap. All they know is you're disturbing my status quo.
Well, I understand, and I do appreciate your point of view there. RJ, let me move on.
Okay.
Thanks a lot. I hope you call in again.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, sir. Take care. I do appreciate RJ's stance, and his stance is the correct stance. You bet. You bet. But I'm not Gandhi. I'm not Christ. I'm not Martin Luther King. I am a very pissed off, late middle-aged white man who, I'm sorry to say, will probably make the situation worse. If I'm in a demonstration and I'm attacked or assaulted, again, RJ's position is the proper position. There's no question about it. There just is no question about it. That's the Peter Werby position. The centered Zen kind of approach, absorb, deflect the violence. I'm just not there, and I wish I were, but I am not, and I'm a very reactive in that sense, very reactive individual. I can just be peaceful as a ocean sunset, but I do not have the capacity that RJ is talking about, and I aspire to it. I'd like to get there someday before I leave this earthly coil, or otherwise I'm probably just going to have to come back and do this all over again. But I'm not there yet, and I just if I'm attacked or if I'm shoved or pushed or spat upon or hassled or punched, well, I will react to that, and I wish I could transcend that. I wish I could. Lance is calling from Manhattan, Illinois. Hey, Lance.
Hey, Mike. You just brought up a subject that I wasn't calling about, but I've been in a few protests and have taken blows from the police and people walking by who were small-minded. And I'm going to go this weekend, and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to take it this time. Mm-hmm. I'm going to try to, but honestly, I couldn't say for sure if one of them does something to me that I'm going to just be happy about absorbing it. Because
well, I don't think anybody's going to mess with you. I've said before, you're 6'1", and...
Oh, Mike, I've been... I tend to speak my mind, and I've been hit with the billy club and poked here and there by various police officials, and I just don't know that I'm going to let them do that this time. I'm going to try.
Okay.
I'm reaching the saturation point.
Well, that's where I'm at.
Well, I'm sorry.
Yeah, me too. Now, what you really called about?
If I was a soldier and they told me to go over there, or I was already over there because I followed orders, they said get in that plane and bomb that city or take that gun and go in there and shoot those people, I would hope that I am honor-bound and legally bound to disobey that order because it's immoral, and my country does not do stuff like this. And I'm a little bit ashamed that I'm not hearing any people in the military doing this. It makes me wonder, because the guy in the office now calling the shots didn't even win the election, it makes me wonder if just a general just decided to take over, if they would just follow his orders blindly too.
Well, I have heard reports of members of the military. It is kept very quiet. The military, A, doesn't let that out. B, the media would never report it. But there are who would be just as you and I would be more than win this country against a foreign invader, but who see Bush for the psychopath that he is, and it's my understanding, it's not getting any media play, but it's my understanding there are members of the U.S. military who are saying no. So I don't know what's going to happen to those soldiers or airmen or Marines, whatever they are. But there is a limit I think, on what your country can ask you to do.
I don't want to pray for them anymore. That willful ignorance that you talked about, that's not selling to me anymore when they're over there murdering children. I just can't buy, okay, you're willfully ignorant, but now you're murdering children. You've crossed the line with me. I'm not praying for you anymore. When all these people say, go pray for the soldiers, no. I'm not praying for them no more. I'm praying for the people they're killing. They need to become unwillfully ignorant and stop it.
Yeah.
And when I hear those airplanes, like you were playing at the beginning of your show, going overhead, dropping bombs on them people, I don't see people obeying orders. I see cowards who are hiding behind their ignorance to murder people with it. It makes my voice crazy because I really love this country, but I'm ashamed. And it's got to stop.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I'm sorry, Mike. Every time I call you now, I just bring your whole show down. I apologize.
You don't bring the show down, Lance. Thanks for checking in.
Thank you.
All right, sir. Take care. You don't bring the show down. JP is calling from Dawsonville, Georgia. JP, welcome to the program.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, JP.
Well, you do have a little problem there with the chain of command, and that's sort of the problem. I mean, being in the military is all about following orders, and I'm descendant from someone who was a colonel in the Confederate Army, and he was literally kicked out of the Confederate Army because he wouldn't follow orders.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't like what he was being told to do, and he was doing what he thought was right, but his commanding officer didn't like what he did, so he was kicked out.
Right, but we set the bar fairly low at the end of World War II when we tried and hanged members of the German General Staff, the Japanese General Staff, and to the lesser members of the German and Japanese military, especially the Germans, who we didn't bring into this country to fight against communism and protect. But the point was made at the Nuremberg trials. There is no defense in I was just following orders.
Yeah.
Now we established that principle as the victors after World War II. So I am hoping for the day that the civilian authorities who are in charge of the U.S. military now, as a result of what is happening now, that these civilian authorities will be tried as war criminals. I'm not holding my breath. It probably won't happen in my lifetime. It may take 20 years, 25 years, if any of these thugs stay alive. But when the truth of this Bush regime finally is out, and it's probably going to come out from historians, the question will be asked, what did the American people do? Just like we asked about the Germans. What did they do to prevent what became World War II? What became the slaughter in Europe? And I'm telling you, JP, these people running the country now are war criminals.
That's true, and that's really sort of the trap or the big problem of the whole situation, I guess. And the problem with this war, in my opinion, is it's not a war. It's
not a war. That's right. It's not a war. It's an attack.
War is two-sided.
That's right. This is an attack. This is an immoral, illegal attack on a, for God's sake, third world country of a bunch of people who are just struggling to stay alive. This is now, where are all the weapons of mass destruction? Anybody with the sense God gave a cockroach would understand that if Saddam Hussein really had in his possession these weapons of mass destruction, they would be out there now. JP, I got to leave it there, pal. Thanks for checking in.
Well, let me say one more thing. About about this war.
Well, let me put you on hold. I'll come back to you, JP. 5 before the hour. We're talking with JP, who has called in from Dawsonville, Georgia. Go ahead, JP. Wrap it up for me. Thanks for holding on.
Okay. Sometimes when my sugar gets low at night, I'll have some pretty strange dreams. And one of the dreams I had recently was one where I was being chased down by a smart bomb. And I've seen some of these clips where you'll see the vision on TV from the smart bomb when it's heading right towards the TV.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, right towards the house that's about to hit.
Toward the target, right.
And That's what I saw. I mean, it was headed right towards my house.
Well, imagine...
And when it was about to hit my house, that's when I woke up. And that's when I realized, hey, they could use those things against us.
Right. Well, imagine the people of Iraq who have done nothing to us, who can't wake up, who woke up dead this morning.
And I began to realize, well, why even worry about gun control when our own government has these smart bombs?
Yeah, I know. It's we're just, I don't know. We're in the dark ages here. JP, thanks for checking in, pal.
Okay.
All right, sir. Appreciate your call. Mike is calling from Washington, D.C. Mike, welcome to the program.
Hey, Mike, how you doing?
Not good.
No, neither am I, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You know, on the one hand, I have to say this, and I hate to, but I cannot support our troops. It's a question of, well, gee, the Wehrmacht supported the German army, but what did that make the German people for supporting them?
I know.
And that's where we're at. We are exactly as legally in Iraq as Hitler was legally in Poland.
Mm-hmm.
And what's going to happen now that we've lit the fuse? What's going to happen after our shock and awe produces a back shock?
Well, I think it's coming as surely as God made little green apples. We are going to be hit in this country, or U.S. citizens, or U.S. property, assets, whether it's corporate or diplomatic, is going to be hit. Let me put you on hold. We got a break here. Let me put you on hold, Mike. I'll come back to you after the break, all right? Because we got to bail out here for a couple of minutes. We're going to try to get Al Martin in. All the lines are full. I don't know how in the hell he's going to get in here, but we'll try to have Al Martin and your phone calls coming back, plus some reports, global reports on demonstrations against this murderous regime that now runs the United States.
This is IE America Radio Network News. I'm Erica Kane. U.S.-led airstrikes are underway again in Iraq.
Shortly after night fell over Baghdad, the airstrikes began earlier than they had in the previous 2 days of the campaign. Anti-aircraft tracer fire could be seen shooting into the night sky. Explosions were heard all over the city. Officials in Washington say this bombardment will be more significant than those we have witnessed over the past 48 hours, and is the start of what the Pentagon calls Operation Shock and Awe. It will go, officials say, far beyond the previous surgical strikes that were aimed at a narrow range of targets. Simon Marks, Amman.
A United Nations agency is donating $1 million to Iran to prepare for an expected influx of Iraqi refugees. As Roxana Saberi reports from Tehran, Iran would like more help dealing with the possible Iraqi exodus.
The UN's refugee agency has donated the money to set up 4 camps along the Iranian border with Iraq. An agency spokesman in Iran says the money will help the country deal with up to 60,000 refugees. He said the $1 million will help Iran clear landmines, construct roads, and build water and sanitation facilities at the sites. The UN High Commissioner for Refugees has appealed for $60 million to serve an expected 600,000 Iraqi refugees. Over half of those refugees are expected to flee to Iran. Iran has closed its borders with Iraq, but has said it will settle refugees under emergency situations. More than 1 million Iraqi refugees fled to Iran during the 1991 Persian Gulf War. Roxana Saberi, Tehran.
Baghdad is not the only target in the U.S. campaign against Iraq. Allied airstrikes have hit targets today in the city of Mosul in northern Iraq. Strikes are also being reported near Kirkuk, which is a valued target because of oil fields.
Welcome back. About 7 past the hour. We're at 800 Talk Yes. We're talking with Mike in Washington, D.C. Mike, thanks for holding on. Go ahead.
Not a problem. You know, I think part of the problem is, Mike, that no one has ever done to us what Eisenhower did to the German people surrounding the concentration camps. Do you recall what that was?
You got me on that one. Oh, make them come into the concentration camps and see the piles of corpses.
Not only that, he made them bury each and every one of them.
That's right, yeah.
And I think that's the problem. We have not been faced with the inevitable results of our military adventures.
Mm-hmm.
Only the people only the people that we sent over there lost their minds and had to deal with post-traumatic shock and so forth.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, when you cross the Bush crime family, any member of the Bush crime family, that's like crossing Tony Soprano. Not to delve into fiction, but you eventually are going to be killed, and people around you are going to be killed. Remember what Bush Sr. did after Manuel Noriega became less than an asset to Pappy Bush. Pappy Bush had dealt with Manuel Noriega for years when Pappy Bush was the head of the CIA, when he was vice president, even when he was president. But eventually, Noriega decided to go his own way, and there was some fear on the part of Pappy Bush that Noriega would spill his guts and tell the world what a thug and a criminal Noriega was. Well, look what happened. 8,000 Panamanians were slaughtered, or 4,000, depending on who you want to believe. 4,000 to 8,000 Panamanian citizens were slaughtered so that Pappy Bush could get his bony, filthy fingers on Noriega, and Noriega now rots in a jail in Miami. You don't cross the Bush crime family. If you do, you wind up either in prison for the rest of your life or dead. Your country, your city is bombed to pieces, and anyone around you will be slaughtered. These people are murderous killers.
Correct. And unfortunately, their homicidal mania will reflect on us.
Well,
we will pay the tab.
That's very true. That's very true. Mike, thanks for checking in.
Thank you.
All right, sir. Appreciate the call. Around the globe, as a result of this murderous slaughter launched by Bush Jr., around the globe now, the reports as provided to the world by CNN and Al Jazeera and other cable networks, television networks, the eyewitness accounts of the bombing, the destruction, the murder that's going on. The result is that more demonstrations in this country are planned for this week, and I hope they never stop. Around the world, chanting. Let me just give you a few here. This is from the French news agency. Chanting anti-American slogans, tens of thousands of Muslims took to the streets of Middle Eastern cities after Friday prayers for a second consecutive day of demonstrations against the attack on Iraq. The biggest protests were in the Yemeni capital, where 3 demonstrators and a policeman were killed in clashes. Equally fiery rallies were held in Bahrain, Egypt, Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, in the West Bank. Tens of thousands of angry demonstrators marched on the U.S. Embassy in Yemen, chanting slogans against the U.S., Israel, and Arab leaders as U.S. and British forces continued their advance into Iraq. They shouted, "Death to America, death to Israel," and to their own leaders they shouted, "Leave office," and open the door to jihad. Security source in the capital of Yemen said that besides the 4 deaths, 18 people were injured, dozens more detained. Thousands of demonstrators clashed with security forces in the southern Jordanian town of Ma'an, an Islamist stronghold with a history of violent anti-government protests, chanting, "With our blood and our soul, we will support you, Saddam." They rained a barrage of stones on lines of police, who replied with a volley of tear gas. Hundreds of people also took to the streets of the capital of Jordan, Amman, and the northern city of Irbid after the weekly Friday prayers, despite a government ban. Police also used force in Cairo, Egypt, dispersing with water cannons and baton charges several hundred protesters chanting anti-American slogans outside the Egyptian capital's historic Al-Azhar Mosque. Inside the mosque, as many as 4,000 worshippers chanted, "Down with America, Al-Akbar." Some clambered onto the roof of Al-Azhar to hurl stones, shoes, and rubbish at the security forces. 10 people injured there. 1,000 demonstrators then marched from the Al-Azhar district to the central Tahrir Square, by which time their numbers had swelled to 3,000. In the Bahraini capital, police fired at least 10 tear gas canisters at a group of around 300 youths trying to hurl stones at the U.S. Embassy, despite yesterday's appeal for calm by Bahrain's King Hamad. In the West Bank town of Nablus, some 5,000 Palestinians carrying Iraqi flags and pictures of Saddam marched through the streets, chanting slogans like "America, the mother of terrorism." In Tukarem and Jenin, south of Nablus, thousands marched to the streets shouting support for Iraq and attacking Arab leaders for allowing the United States and its allies to use their territory. In Bethlehem, in the southern West Bank, 200 people demonstrated, shouting, Saddam, fire chemical weapons at Tel Aviv. In East Jerusalem, Israeli police used tear gas and stun grenades to disperse some 300 Palestinians, shouting their willingness to die for Saddam. In Ain Hawa, another in the occupied territories, around 2,000 vented their anger on U.S. President Bush, British Prime Minister, what's his name, Tony Blair, and Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon. The protesters chanted, death to Bush, death to Blair, you are assassins like your friend Sharon. They also accused Mubarak of being an American spy. The national flags of 3 countries were ceremoniously burned, while those of Germany and France flew between the Iraqi and Palestinian flags. In Beirut, Lebanon police used water cannons to stop students marching on the U.S. embassy. It goes on and on. Hamas now, the militant Islamic group Hamas and Islamic Jihad, both urged Iraqis to carry out suicide bombings against invading U.S. and British forces. Hamas leader Abdel Aziz al-Rantisi said Iraqis should prepare explosive belts and would-be martyrs, that would be the suicide bombers, to combat the U.S. occupiers. The statement went on, the American aggression, the American invaders are now on Iraqi soil, and therefore Iraqis must confront them with all possible means, including suicide operations. In Africa, newspapers across Africa poured scorn on Bush over the war in Iraq. In the South African weekly The Mail and Guardian, they called Bush a whore, their word, a whore, quote, who more than any of his 42 predecessors has prostituted himself to his country's industrial interests. Kenya's Daily Nation on its front page said, what a senseless war. The paper warned in Kenya that Bush had embarked on a path that could make the world even more unsafe. What else? In Morocco, the anger is focused on what is called the intolerable injustice of the Iraq War. The Morocco newspaper warned of excesses and anarchy and fanatical religious movements which are simply waiting for the right moment to ruin the country. The Islamic newspaper Al-Azhar wondered if the United States was oblivious to the fact that the war could be seen as justifying reactions against American interests around the world. In Senegal, the newspaper there denounced what it called this illegal aggression and the possible end of international law. Another newspaper in Senegal said this war is neither legitimate nor justified and it defies the international community. A third newspaper, Le Soleil, said with this second war against Iraq and the sidelining of the UN, most of the world's nations feel threatened by American unilateralism. All of the daily newspapers in Tunisia said similar things because Bush has used so much of his psychopathic religious phraseology in both of his attacks, first Afghanistan and now Iraq. He is turning 1.5 billion people in the Muslim world against the United States. If the CIA wants to stop terrorist training efforts, they ought to stop the bombing. It never should have begun. Put duct tape on Bush's mouth. He's a walking, talking poster for anti-American terrorist groups. He is a recruitment poster. It's just incredible. It's just incredible. In Europe, the largest demonstration was in Greece, where more than 150,000 people marched through the capital. In South Asia, Indian-administered Kashmir and Bangladesh saw the largest protests. In Pakistan, there has been a mixed response to a nationwide strike called by an alliance of 6 Islamist parties to protest against the U.S.-led attack on Iraq. Thousands of people across Australia and East Asia, including Japan, South Korea, and Malaysia, took part in anti-war rallies. In Australia, protesters blocked roads in the country's second-largest city, Melbourne, and chanted slogans against America. In Japan, up to 50,000 people snaked through Tokyo demanding an early end to the war, with demonstrators urging people to boycott American products. Smaller protests were reported in South Korea, Indonesia, the Philippines, Thailand, and China. This is George Bush. This is George Bush's world. He must be removed from office. It's impossible to put into words the damage that this ignorant man, this murderous man, George W. Bush, is doing to the United States, is doing to our presence abroad, what he is doing to our institutions of self-governance. Southside Carl's calling from Chicago. Carl, welcome to the program.
Hey, how you doing, Mike?
Not good.
Yeah, hey, I know what you mean. I kind of like tuned out after things got started. But I wanted to talk to you about a few ironies of all of this. We lost this thing morally.
Before it even began.
Yeah, right. And some of these ironies, like, I haven't been watching a lot of the news and stuff, but where are the weapons of mass destruction?
They don't exist, Carl. Let me put you on hold. They don't exist. They might have existed, the weapons of mass destruction provided by Bush's father and Ronald Reagan, but they were destroyed during Gulf War I, and they have been destroyed by inspectors. There are no weapons of mass destruction. And, Carl, I think I just cut you off. Call me back.
This crusade, this war on terrorism, this is a new kind of evil.
We must collectively get after those who kill in the name of some kind of false religion.
Like you and your sick, perverted Christianity, right, George? All right, back to Southside Carl. Didn't mean to hang up on you, pal.
Yeah, Mike. Yeah, we were talking about the weapons of mass destruction. I think I had mentioned to you the possibility of maybe some weeks ago when I talked to you about that he maybe didn't have them.
Right. Well, if we spent 12 years, like this Bush thug likes to say, he's defied us for 12 years. If the combined intelligence organizations of England, France, Germany, Israel, and the United States, not to mention the Russians, couldn't find them, if satellite photos and overflights couldn't find them, if on-the-ground inspectors couldn't find them, then one could logically and rationally come to the conclusion they don't exist.
Well, this is the thing that was with me was that I'm like, what are we going to do? I know we're going to. I understand this. We're going to be what I see how we are as a country. We're sort of like a country of substance abusers. We have a terminal case of denial, and I don't think that they're going to find anything because if we were in this situation that he was in, our silos would have been empty a long time ago. And if we don't find anything and he doesn't use anything, America isn't going to want to acknowledge that, well, this was immoral and that, well, he didn't have them. He had been telling us, I don't have them. We don't have them.
Right.
And I don't know how, I know we're going to try to, deny it and get out of it, but I can't see how the world is going to look at us and say that, well, you know what? America was right. I just can't see it, Mike. I don't know, am I missing something or what?
No, you're not. And Carl, what is going on is that George W. Bush is putting a target on every single American, whether in this country or traveling overseas. This murderous thug in the White House, who has now ran scampering to Camp David so he can play his Game Boy and gloat in all the death and destruction he caused, or is in the process of causing, he has put a target on all of us. Now, I remember during the bombing of Serbia, when up there in Chicago, Serbian Americans started wearing T-shirts with targets on them because the NATO attack they felt was strictly against the Serbian people. What Bush has done is literally put a target on every single American. I don't care if they're standing in a line at an airport ticket counter in Germany or trying to do shopping at a shopping mall in Tokyo or going to work at an oil refinery in Indonesia. What Bush has done is put a target on every single American. He has put every American at risk. He is a murderous thug. He has to be removed from office.
Well, Well, has there been anyone give any kind of commentary to answer that question? Well, what's happening with the weapons of mass destruction? I mean...
No. The horror media in this country is not going to raise the issue at all. Wolf Blitzer or Judy Woodward or some of these rat monsters on Fox News, or Judy Woodruff, I mean, none of these people are going to raise the obvious question.
Well, it's pretty simple because, I mean, I asked my son, he's like a junior, 17 years old, and I said, well, what do you think about this? And he said, well, it doesn't make any sense to me. And I said, well, why? He said, because if he had something, he probably would have used it.
Right.
And, and that's not that difficult to understand. And I just, I'm really puzzled now. How are we going to, face the world and not answer that question that, well, after all of this, he doesn't have anything. And for those who, want to argue that, well, he couldn't be contained or he had no limitations or restrictions, well, what's happening right now shows that. And even this other thing about, well, those who say, well, he tried to kill Bush daddy. Well, what's the first thing Bush do? He gets antsy and don't even tell, I guess, Tony Blair. Well, he tries to assassinate him the first time.
I know. You're trying to make sense out of it, Carl, and it can't be done. Listen, pal, I got to leave it there. Thanks for checking in, Carl. Phone calls when we come back. Stay with us. 27 before the hour. Around the country, of course, yesterday and again today, Chicago was one of the cities that saw Lakeshore Drive. Any of you who if you've not been to Chicago, when you see the aerial photographs of Chicago, it's that long boulevard that snakes along Lake Michigan. Thousands of people shut that down after a demonstration outside the federal courthouse yesterday. According to the Associated Press, late rush hour traffic northbound on the drive was stopped for blocks as demonstrators surged through the police lines. Police tried at several points to contain the crowd, but marchers repeatedly broke through their ranks and marched on, only to be stopped again as police on horseback and others in riot gear headed them off. There were several arrests, but appeared to be no violent clashes between police and protesters. You got to remember, there's a collective memory of what happened at the Democratic National Convention in that city in 1968. 2,000 people filled Federal Plaza downtown for this late afternoon rally that spilled onto nearby streets. According to the AP, helmeted police on horseback watched as speakers denounced the war, denounced Bush, and protesters carried signs. Now, I got an email from a friend in Chicago who says his opinion is that the police in Chicago, not individually, but the police as a group, do not support what Bush is doing and are taking it especially easy. We'll see how that works out on the demonstrators. Of course, in San Francisco, for those of you listening from San Francisco, I don't have to tell you what that was like yesterday. Where else? Pittsburgh. Oh God, it just goes on and on, and it has to go on. It has to not stop. This weekend has got to bring millions of people into the streets again. It'll happen around the globe, but it's got to happen in this country. Todd is calling from Chicago. Hey, Todd.
Hey, Mike. Anti-illegal Bush war dittos.
Thank you.
I was out there yesterday amongst 2,000 is way too small, I think.
Well, no, they said the AP said that's how many people formed up early in the afternoon at Federal Plaza.
We have media reports, actual, not indie media, but actual, like ABC media reports of 10,000.
Yeah, it swelled to that. I think what the AP is trying to say was it started out with a couple thousand people over at Daley Plaza, and then it expanded and expanded and expanded, got bigger and bigger and bigger. By the time it hit Outer Drive, or Lakeshore Drive, it was just what it was. It was.
Let me let some of these morons know that. We have supported the troops from the beginning. That's why we didn't want them in there in the first place. We didn't want them killed.
Right.
We didn't want 16 people killed in a helicopter last night.
Yeah.
We didn't want that. We want them to come home. That's what we're protesting right now. We're protesting against not only the war, but we're protesting the troops being there, and they should be coming home now. That's it. That's what we want. That's what we're protesting.
Yeah.
And I must say, about the rally yesterday, it brought not only it was a whole bunch of young people who no doubt understand what the ramifications of this war is going to be on them in the next in the next few months and years to come, and the rest of our lives, because this is our country. We are going to be spending the most of our lives, more of our lives than anybody else, especially Bush, in living in this hell that's going to occur out of this war. And I think a lot of people realize that, and a lot of people wanted to come out there. They left school, walked out, and protested. You know, and what happened got blown extremely out of proportion by the media. Now, what really happened, there was a lot of nice protesting going on at, there were some good speakers at the Federal Plaza from about 5 to about 6:15, 6 o'clock. Then they said, "March, get across the street, damn it, let's go, let's go. Don't let these cops scare you. Just get across the street, let's go." So we walked down Adams Street, and we took it to, I think we took it to like State Street or something like that. And then we walked all the way down as far as we could. And we kept going. It seemed like nobody got stopped at all by police or anything like that. We walked across the street. We took the street over. We were in the middle of the street for a good amount of time on State Street, and then we went over to Lakeshore Drive. It wasn't State. I think it was Adams, actually. Right. But, or Jackson. We went over to Lakeshore Drive. We took over the northbound lanes of Lakeshore Drive. There were no cops in front of us. They must have closed it down ahead of time, is what I'm saying. The cops must have closed it down ahead of time because there were no cars going on the road. But there was no way that any cars could have gone, considering how many people took over all northbound lanes of Lakeshore Drive. So we did that for a good 2 miles going northbound, and once we headed, we were down about 2 miles. Then people said, "All right, let's jump the median, let's get going." And then so the cops started coming around in riot gear and all this. You know, they were pretty intent on, keeping it peaceful, which it was the whole time. Right. I saw one person get arrested on Lakeshore Drive. I have no idea what somebody could have been doing on Lakeshore Drive to get arrested.
Maybe selling a little reefer after all. There's a big crowd there.
Could have been. I heard somebody got arrested for cocaine possession in L.A. yesterday.
Well, let me ask you something, because I got to move on here, Todd. Let me ask you, did your old friend and my former co-worker Jay Marvin from WLS show up for any of these demonstrations? Have you seen Jay Marvin's ass out there protesting the war, or is he? I
don't think so.
You don't think so?
But amongst the 10,000, I wouldn't have seen it. One more thing.
Okay.
We ended up. This wouldn't have been a big deal if we hadn't got off Lakeshore Drive. We should have never got off Lakeshore Drive. I tried to stay on and keep people on as long as possible. People wanted to get off and take over Michigan Avenue yesterday. When we did that, police cornered us in Michigan Avenue and Chicago Avenue and surrounded us with a perimeter where we could not get out. They would not let us out, and they never asked us to disperse. And all we ever wanted to do yesterday was just march down Michigan Avenue, which would have no doubt caused a hell of a lot more traffic than we had already caused. But it would have been, we took it off Lakeshore Drive.
Well, when you have 100,000 people, as these demonstrations have to get to, there's not enough police on any city police force to contain that large of a crowd, and that's what it's got to come to.
And I almost got also one witness report is I almost got thrown into by a cop was throwing a guy around, and this was the only violent incident I saw, and I was like right in front of it. This guy was walking away from the police, and one of the policemen saw him walking away, ripped his shirt, pulled him back, and then swung him across the crowd, and it made people kind of flee away. And so when the media in Chicago has talked about chaos at the march,
that's what they're
that was what they were talking about. That thing was over within a matter of 15 seconds.
All right.
And that was the only thing that happened yesterday that might have been a little bit out of hand.
Yeah.
Otherwise, everything was cool. I will be down there. I'm leaving in 10 minutes to get my ass down to Federal Plaza and do it again, hopefully.
All right, Todd, thanks.
Take care, Mike.
All right, sir. Appreciate your call. Peaceful demonstration, the right to speak out, the right to petition the government for redress of grievances is something, of course, that Ashcroft and the Bush crime family is trying to extract from the American public. And I just truly believe that that there has got to be hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of people peacefully demonstrating in the streets of this country to stop this madman. And the madman is not the tyrant in Iraq. The madman is the tyrant in the United States, George W. Bush. It's got to happen. I don't think anybody advocates violence. I said earlier in this program, if somebody goes upside my head, they're going to get an instant reaction. I wish I had a better Zen approach to that, but I don't. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about hundreds of thousands, if not millions of Americans in the street every single day to let George W. Bush and his crime family understand that no matter how they delude themselves, America does not support this. Mark is calling from Pensacola, Florida. Mark, thanks for holding on. Sorry it took so long. Welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks.
This is your first time calling, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, welcome aboard.
Thank you. Hey, I was before I get into what I want to say, I was listening to you talking about all the protests all over the world, which I watch a lot of on this one Link channel it's called Link on the satellite. The only
I get that channel too.
The only channel that's not right wing, I think, out of 300. But
yeah,
I thought, we can't go anywhere now. I mean, there's no way any American
and be utterly safe. You're right.
So he's put us in danger. Now, of course, they all have health care and Camp David bunkers to go hide in, but we cannot go anywhere, and it's only a matter of time before that spills over into this country. They've made us much more, more in danger.
More vulnerable. Oh, sure, absolutely.
And I was thinking, even if you looked at it from a purely pragmatic viewpoint, if you just, let's say you are a Republican, and let's say you say, hey, let's go take Iraq. Do they think it would ever work with a guy leading the charge named Bush and with somebody else named Cheney? Don't you know they all think, those people over there think, this guy is a criminal and we don't trust him a bit.
Sure.
I mean, so that was just foolish. But what I wanted to say was, one, I love your righteous anger, and I think if we all keep that and keep a little bit of a sense of humor, we will win.
I hope that's the case. I'm trying to find the humor, and I can't today. Obviously, I can't today.
Well, can I give you a couple? I read an article about some of the signs in San Francisco, and some of them made me laugh.
Sure.
One was of the protesters: "Kiss me, I'm French." Lesbians against boys invading anything. I love that. Smoke bud, not Baghdad.
Right.
Who would Jesus bomb? And then there was a dog wearing a sign about bombs kill puppies and millions more. But I was listening to Atlanta's own comedian David Cross, and he compared a war on terrorism to a war on jealousy. You can't. You're never going to win that.
Right. Exactly.
But I want to say one more other thing about this. Bush taking the law into his own hands, which he has done. Now, they backed out of that International Criminal Court.
Right.
And, of course, the way they back out of anything, they don't even give you a pittance. They don't say, well, think about it. They just say no.
Right.
So it might not make a lot of Americans mad, but it makes a lot of the other people mad. And so then he comes up with this new doctrine, a new law called preemptive or whatever you want to call it, policy.
Uh-huh.
And then instead of trying to take that to the court where he knew he would have run up against a tough sell there, no doubt about it, he just goes ahead and takes the law in his own hands.
Well, the court, if we just let's forget the International Criminal Court. Bush and his thugs took the idea to the United Nations, and the United Nations, not so impolitely, told him to go straight to hell, that such a thing would not be authorized, that an organization set up, chartered to ensure peace on this planet was not going to be the organization that would authorize war in George Bush's name.
Exactly.
They are this gang, this Bush crime family. Not only are they the most ignorant SOBs that I've ever known in my life that have wound up in these positions of power, but they're also the most deadly. These people make Hitler and Stalin and Mao look like a bunch of amateurs with what they have in mind.
I agree, and I don't think any of them will be going to Europe anytime soon because they'll be going to Brussels after this war. They'll be able to, if they go over to Europe, they'll be able to grab them. That's why you won't see Kissinger going over there either.
Yeah, I hear you. Hey, listen, I'm glad you called, Mark. Thanks for finding the program, and I hope you call again.
I will.
All right, sir. Take care. I appreciate it. Mike is calling from Chicago. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Mike.
How you doing? Haven't heard from you for a while, pal.
I was on yesterday for a few minutes.
Oh, you were? Okay. Well, my brain is just
No. I'm sorry. I called Kathy, and I didn't want to go on the air.
You didn't get... Okay, there you go.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I did call yesterday, though.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, I won't bother asking you how you were doing. But anyway, was flipping through the channels last night, and figured I normally don't watch the ABC news station up here. But sure enough, they were talking about they had video from the protests and stuff. I had first caught it on MSNBC. A friend of mine had called and said, go to MSNBC and check out what's going on.
Right.
And then I figured, well, I'll flip around on the channels. I missed Channel 9 up here.
Right.
So I waited until 10 o'clock and flicked over and watched what was going on. And it looked pretty peaceful. And then I turned on the radio early this morning around 5:15 and listened to the lovely couple in the morning on
Don and Roma.
Yeah,
those two miserable, dried up psychopaths. Oh, they're just they both look like a vampire stuck a straw in their carotid artery and just sucked until there was nothing left. Both of them.
Yeah. I got about halfway through the Roma trying to play the liberal
right.
part, and she was like, what we have to remember is, to a time when we were teenagers and we were young and foolish.
Oh, for God's sake!
And I was like, you got to be kidding me.
Well, what about our good friend Jay Marvin? Surely he's out there leading the anti-war demos, right?
Oh yeah, sure he is.
So WLS has just become a little rat's nest of right-wing reactionaries.
Yeah, they've got some new. Oh, the other thing that was on Channel 7 News, the ABC station. Now, I'll grant you, they for about the first 15, I'd say they gave a good 5 to 7 minutes of the program.
Right.
And I was watching the clock to see how much, and I was like, well, geez, you're listening now, because as far as protests were concerned in Chicago, they weren't getting that much play.
Right.
Okay. So anyway, real quick to cut it all off. Towards the end of the 15-minute broadcast about that, they talked about the other side and how they would like to have their voices. So they gave them a graphic and told them that they were going to have a protest on Saturday at Daily Plaza or the Federal Building. Yeah. Well, I was like, you got to be kidding me! These guys get advertising?
Yeah, right. Well, of course, it's corporate whore media. Mike, thanks for checking in, pal.
Take care, Mike.
All right, sir. You too. Mass destruction. All right, quick break. We'll be back. Stay with us. I'm Mike Malloy. Dr. John is calling from Springfield, Missouri. Dr. John, welcome to the program.
Well, hi, Mike. I tell you what, it's kind of it's a pretty sad day.
It is indeed.
I was, in fact, one of the first things I wanted to mention is that when you drop bombs on people who either cannot or will not defend themselves, it's not war, it's murder.
It's murder, yeah.
And a friend of mine and I were talking last night, and he and I have over 30 years in the Air National Guard, and we're no great strategic thinkers or anything like that. But we happen to think of something that perhaps we should think about is that why is Saddam wasting what few scuds he has left out making holes in the desert? Why isn't he dropping them on Israel? And I think we figured out the reason is that he's waiting for us to get to Baghdad, and he knows that if he drops anything on Israel, which he's I'm sure wanting to do very badly, that they'll retaliate, maybe with nukes. And then we've got our troops in Baghdad, and he's got us as a hostage to keep Israel from coming after him.
The old come into my parlor, said the spider to the fly type thing?
It's called the dogs of war. Look at what's happening in Cairo today. We've unleashed the dogs of war, and they're now roaming around the neighborhood hungry, looking for kittens.
And they will find them.
They will find them.
The entire Middle East. We have supported 1, 2, 3 kingdoms there, Kuwait, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia. We have supported 2 military dictatorships, Iraq and Egypt. We have supported a country that is known as a hotbed of terrorism, Syria. what's his name, Dick Cheney and Rumsfeld and the rest of these monsters do business with countries like Libya, Iraq, Iran, and have no problem with taking their blood money. But these countries that we have supported that through force keep the lid on Islamic fundamentalism, these are the countries that are going to absolutely rupture and explode.
Mike, very quickly before it's time to go, when all this is finished and we get our puppet installed over there, whoever it might be, some general probably, it's going to wind up like Karzai over in...
Sure.
He's going to be the mayor of Baghdad.
That's
and
it.
The rest of the country is going to be a three-way civil war between the Kurds, the Sunnis, and the Shiites.
That's right. Absolutely. It's coming as surely as night follows day. Thanks, Dr. John.
Hey, thank you, Mike.
All right, sir. Quick break. We'll be back. Stay with us. I'm Mike Malloy.
This is IE America Radio Network News. I'm Darren Copeland. A series of blasts just went off in downtown Baghdad with flames and smoke filling the sky as U.S. jets pound the city with bombs. In the past few hours, coalition sorties have increased dramatically, and sporadic anti-aircraft fire has been exploding over Baghdad. Pentagon officials say that that's what's being witnessed as part of the shock and awe phase of Operation Iraqi Freedom. President Bush is being criticized by some for using military force against Saddam Hussein. Richard Pearl, the chairman of the Defense Advisory Board think tank at the Pentagon, is confident that most people change their minds once they learn the truth about the regime of Saddam Hussein.
I think the world will be shocked when we have the first-hand testimony of Iraqis who have not been free to talk about what life has been like under that regime.
French President Jacques Chirac has reportedly said the U.S. administration violated international law, while demonstrations against the U.S. have escalated in many Arab nations. The anti-war protest in San Francisco started on a high note, but ended on a sad note. Joel Kamisher reports.
The good mood didn't last very long. A group of musicians quickly got onto the sidewalk as soon as police told them to, but for some reason or other, a large group of police officers surrounded the musicians, and they're putting them under arrest, despite an appeal from some other people in the crowd to let them go. Joel Kamisher, San Francisco.
As the shock and awe phase of the war begins, people are watching the bombardment on TV screens in Times Square. Lisa Romanello reports.
Shock and awe stirs patriotism among some New Yorkers.
After the Twin Towers, they get what they deserve.
Do you equate 9/11 with Iraq?
I think that's where the heart of it is. It's getting its financing from somewhere, and it has to be from there, because they happen to be one of the richest countries right now, with the oil and everything.
But there is concern about Iraqi civilians. One man visiting from France called it a sad day. He's not worried about discrimination during his visit, though. He says he hopes the American people are more clever than their president. Lisa Romanello, New York.
7 past the hour. Welcome back. All right, we're going to take a few phone calls, and then we are going to play for you again. It runs a little over 5 minutes. The attack on Baghdad, about, I guess now it's been about 5 hours ago. Because I want you to hear the shock and awe. We're going to get to that in just a couple of minutes. Tom is calling from Marietta, Georgia. Hey, Tom.
Yeah, hey, Mike.
Thanks for holding on, by the way.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah, I've been in Europe, actually, in the last couple of weeks, in Brussels and Amsterdam, and got back this week. And normally you feel, kind of good to get back to the United States after being outside. And this time was a little bit stranger. I feel like you're leaving the land of the sane into a land of a sort of relative madness. I won't ask you how you're doing. I really kind of know.
It was like coming back into an asylum, maybe, huh?
Yeah, it really is. Over there I was watching the BBC on television, and a couple of things that sort of make me sick are like CNN. You got this guy Aaron Brown, I guess his name, and it's almost like these people are cheerleading in some way. It's
well, they are. I don't think, and not to correct you, but I don't think it's almost like at all. This is what has happened to corporate media in this country. This is the reason they pay these guys the big bucks to get out there and to become absolute street prostitutes for this war. And they're more than willing to do it because they know that if they don't, first of all, I think there's very few anchor men or women who have any moral aspect to them at all. They will sell out to whomever in order to maintain their visibility, their whoredom, their celebrityness. So I don't care if it's Aaron Brown or these punks on Fox. Any of these people who get the kind of exposure that being an anchor person or a reporter on camera for news organizations, it's come to that point. This is not journalism anymore, Tom. It's just pure, simple prostitution.
Yeah, I have to say a little bit, though. Peter Werby, on before you, sort of took your policy today towards right-wingers. He really didn't want to hear from him. He kind of lost his zen cool today.
Well, that can happen.
Yes.
even to people who have studied Tai Chi for 15 years.
Well, then your first call was a right-winger, right?
Yeah,
right in the dunk tank.
Yeah, I thought I would give him some time, but like most of these brain-dead zombies, they keep going back to Clinton's penis.
Yeah.
That's all they can do. They are fascinated with Clinton's private parts, and that's all they can do.
Now, here's what I got to ask you. I mean, I must be a little bit stupid, but when this thing first started off this week, and this shock and awe didn't begin. I mean, I actually, call me dumb, but I mean, I'm holding out hopes that some of this was bluster. We know we're fully capable of it, but you feel that the troops are advancing and things are going on, and it's like they probably hit Saddam.
Well, you know what shock and awe was for? These murderous bastards who run this country now. This was not just to cause the Iraqi military to collapse. This is a display. This was a display of U.S. firepower for the Russians, for the Chinese, for the North Koreans, for the Iranians, for the Syrians, for anybody else who may not be intimidated by the Bush crime family. The people of Iraq, the people of Baghdad that were butchered today, that were blown into a million pieces, they were object lesson one. This is what we have, and we are psychopathic enough that we will use it. We will use it on a civilian population. We will use it on a city. We will use it on a third world country that hasn't even been able to feed itself for the past 12 years. We are murderous, and if we will do this to Iraq, imagine what we will do to you.
Yeah, I think you opened the show with this being a day of utter and absolute shame, and I couldn't agree with you more. And as I, talked to a group of people in Amsterdam, because I was over there on business talking to people, I said, and I'm not the Dixie Chicks by any means,
right.
But I just said, I'm more of a citizen of the world now and a human being first, and we in America, we have to learn civil disobedience along with the Second Amendment. I have got no doubt whatsoever that we have to start teaching our kids, because I'm the father of a serviceman and I'm an ex-serviceman myself, but
right.
we've just got to learn that to use our power wisely. If not, this is going to come back to haunt us.
I think you're absolutely right. Thanks, Tom.
Mike.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your call. All right. We're going to, I want you to hear this. If you did not, for those of you who have heard it and don't want to listen to this, I understand. This is shock and awe. That is what we did to a city of 5 million, 50% of whom are under the age of 16, 4 hours ago. That's what we did. Patrick is calling from Owensboro, Kentucky. Patrick, welcome to the program. This is your first time calling, right?
Whoa, when you said that, man, that just gave me goosebumps. Whoa, yeah, this is the first time. God bless you, man. Good to hear from you. I can't believe I got a hold of you. My question is, since we're under siege here in the U.S., I just hope that the rest of the world knows this. I mean, I hope that they're not mad at Americans, that they know that this is freaking, W.
I think a lot of we get calls from people listening in other countries occasionally, people from Europe, people from Australia, and I think to some degree those foreign people, foreign to us, understand that this country is in lockdown with a fascist regime. But I do think they hold us responsible that we've allowed this to happen. Let me put you on hold. I'll come right back to you, Patrick. We have to take a quick break here. The impression I get from emails from people overseas and from phone calls to this program overseas is that, yeah, like Patrick says, he hopes that they can differentiate. Did we differentiate during World War II between the Nazi leadership and the German people?
If you want to look your best, be sure you eat the right foods. Tomatoes and strawberries both contain vitamin C.
The course of this conflict is not known, yet its outcome is certain. God is not neutral.
Oh, you sick, filthy, filthy human being, to invoke the name of God for mass murder. Back to Patrick in Owensboro, Kentucky.
Yeah, man, what we were talking about a while ago, as far as the world reaction goes, yes, they hold the American people accountable, but, how much do they know about, Florida, 2000,
right.
BT, Clayton, Catherine Harris?
I know.
That needs to get out. I
don't think they understand our system. Most countries around the planet have parliamentary systems of government, or if not parliamentarian systems of government, systems that are much more responsive in a more direct way to what is the will of the governed.
Right.
It's been stacked in this country. Our system of electing people on a national level was stacked in favor of the wealthy, stacked in favor of the landowner, stacked in favor of people other than the common voter, folks like you and me making the decision. And now even that corrupt system has been totally corrupted by money and by the Bush crime family.
Right.
George W. Bush will serve 8 years in office. I have no doubt.
Oh, God, don't tell me that.
Well, I have no doubt, because even though the American people might want to remove him, the system by which we laughingly or allegedly choose our leaders now has also been totally corrupted.
I don't think we'll be on the map.
Well, if we are, if there still is a United States of America that hasn't been reduced to the kind of rubble that we have reduced the city of Baghdad to, I don't think George Bush will never relinquish power, and especially the people behind him, these murderous bastards like Pearl and Wolfowitz and Cheney and Rumsfeld, they are not going to relinquish power. I feel that in my gut now. I kind of hoped that the American people would turn on this dictator. But when I look at the polls and see how much support is there, I know the polls can be wrong, but if even 1% of the American public supports these murderous gangsters, we're in trouble. And the polls say that 50, 60, 70% support this. I think the United States, as you and I knew it growing up, I think that has ceased to exist, and it ceased today. It didn't cease on December 20th, 2000, when the Supreme Court handed the presidency to the Bush crime family. I think it ended today. because in defiance of not just normal, what am I trying? In defiance not just of morality and ethical conduct, and the normal interplay between nations, not just in defiance of that, but in defiance of international law, in defiance of the feeble attempts humans have made to regulate international conduct. The Bush crime family today brushed it off the table and said, "We are what we are. I am because I am." And this is it. This is the day. I do believe this. I'm not trying to be melodramatic here. I'm not trying to overstate it. But that's what I believe. In listening now 3 times to that 5-minute audio, and having watched it this afternoon on CNN, the destruction that was hurled against a third world city in a third world country that could no more defend itself than pee up a rope. The mass murder that was committed today, I think, is on a par with anything that any totalitarian state has ever done to any state that it invaded. And to think that we did this without provocation.
Yeah, and whenever there's a Republican in office, we always look at it as a very grim thing. But, this is... Bush doesn't even really compare to Adolf Hitler. I mean, he's worse.
It's the people, right? The people behind him. Bush is.
And I think the American people are smarter than that. I think all tyrants are a minority. Proven throughout history.
I hope that's the case.
And there are more. I'm being positive now, but there are more protesters today, as they say.
Well.
Than there were in the 60s.
I hope you're right. Patrick, we're out of time. Thank you, sir.
Good.
All right, call again. It's a pleasure to hear from you. I hope you call again. Stay with us.
The policy of my government is the removal of Saddam.
27 before the hour. Back to your phone calls in just a second. I'm going to post this entire thing at my website tonight after the program. Go to MikeMalloy.net or MikeMalloy.com. Click on the daily program topics page. It's titled, Let There Be No Doubt. Very quickly, a 5,000-year-old civilization located in the valley between the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers, hallowed by the reverence of history, is being destroyed by a 200-year-old, technologically superior and morally challenged tribe, high on steroidal missiles and bombs, coveting world domination and empire. Civilian Iraq is defenseless, and this war is murder. Let there be no doubt this is an act of unprovoked barbarism that will be recorded in blood and will be on this nation's hands. Let there be no doubt this war will violate the sovereignty of a state and will reverse the progress of the modern age, poised for 300 years on the hope of preventing war. Let there be no doubt what is now called preemptive war is a swift attack followed by invasion, carnage, and enforced submission. Let there be no doubt when the first bombs fall on Iraq, the world will shrink away from us in shock, but not in awe. Let there be no doubt. There is no alliance of the willing, only ultimately an alliance of countries which want to be on the winning side of this war. Let there be no doubt. This is a war callous in the extreme. It will enrich the U.S. energy and weapons industries. Exxon has the sole concession for fueling the U.S. Army. Halliburton will fix the oil infrastructure. Kellogg, Brown & Root, owned by Halliburton, will build American bases. Let there be no doubt. The responsibility of citizens of the United States is inscribed in the record of the Nuremberg War Crime Tribunal. The responsibility is clear. Quote, individuals have international duties which transcend the national obligations of obedience. Therefore, individual citizens have the duty to violate domestic laws to prevent crimes against peace and crimes against humanity from occurring. Now, that's what you and I are stuck with. This is what was imposed as a result of Hitler's invasion of Poland in 1939. Conclusions were drawn when the war was over. Conclusions were drawn and law was inscribed forever where it concerned the aggressive acts of a state out of control. That's where we are. And I don't care how much we try to avoid the responsibility that we have as a society, we cannot. The Bush crime family is literally destroying the world. Mary Jo is calling from St. Louis, Missouri. Mary Jo, this is your first time calling, right?
Yes,
Well-
but I listen every night after work to the repeat shows.
Ah, well, thank you.
My corporate master has deemed it unimportant that I have a sound card in my computer at work, therefore I don't have the technology to listen during the day.
Well,
But this radio station, or whatever it is, this network, is, oh, God, I stopped listening to nationalistic public radio. I have a 20-year-old TV, and I rarely turn it on because all of it is propaganda.
uh-huh.
You know, propaganda passing as truth to people who are too lazy to go anywhere beyond MSNBC to look for news. I mean, at work, that's where most people's computers are, at MSNBC. And I just want to go slap them upside the head and say, you know, you need to get another perspective. And
yeah, but they're not going to.
No.
I mean, media in this country is nothing but a collection of two-bit whores, prostitutes, streetwalkers, and pimps.
There's a website called Media Whores Online, and it's bringing the media to their knees, but we already realized they were there.
I'm very familiar with that website.
And, you know, it's just, when you were playing those bombs, I mean, I'm looking out, I live in one of the suburbs of St. Louis, one of the more liberal ones that did pass an anti-USA Patriot resolution that I worked on in coalition with a bunch of other people. And the sky is blue, temperatures in the 50s, couldn't ask for a better day, and I just wanted to cry listening to that because Iraqi mothers, Iraqi children, and I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it,
I know.
are scared to death.
If they're not,
everybody has relatives in Amman where they can go visit.
Yeah, they're scared. They're scared to death if they're not dead.
Yeah. And what is the difference between baby Bush, calling on the name of God, and Osama bin Laden? Both of them are fundamentalists.
Well, they're both religiously insane. They both will stop at nothing to impose their religious/political ideology, and they're both killers.
And you know, another thing that I don't hear discussed much is what role does the fundamentalist Christian notion of the end of the world, end times, and end time prophecy play in Bush's decision-making?
It plays in very deeply. We've discussed that a couple of times at length on this program. It plays in very deeply. Bush honestly believes, look, he is a madman, only he's the worst kind of madman. He is religiously inspired. This dolt, this moron, thinks that he is doing God's will. You hear him invoke God's name in private, off-the-record discussions with Christian religious fundamentalists in this country. He talks about his relationship with Jesus. Jesus Christ would lift his leg and pee on George Bush out of contempt.
I wish it could happen.
Just out of contempt that this.
I would name my dog Jesus Christ if I could.
Well, this, a weasel, a filthy perverter of Christian doctrine like George Bush. I think he would be the one that even Christ would turn to on the cross, and instead of saying to the thief, "This day you will join me in heaven with my Father," I think he would look at Bush and say, "You might as well get off the cross, you little thug, because you're not coming anywhere near heaven."
Oh, this is why I love this show, because, and another thing that makes me mad about the Dixie Chicks, and a whole bunch of things about American society now. I mean, in Europe, they're shutting down cities. And what are we doing? We're going about business as usual.
Well, we're changing French fries to freedom fries. That'll show them.
Give me a break.
Hey, listen, I hope you call again, Mary Jo.
Okay, thank you, and thank you for being there.
Well, thank you for being there.
All right, thanks.
Take care. Reuters now is reporting about 30 minutes ago, Turkish troops, Thomas sent this to me, Turkish troops will enter northern Iraq. Turkey said on Friday its troops would enter northern Iraq to prevent an influx of refugees across its borders. The United States has not agreed to Turkey sending troops into northern Iraq, a U.S. official said. Looks like it's going to be a three-way war, Thomas writes. Which side is Bush going to take? It's going to be worse than a three-way war. Bush is operating on instructions from his perverted God, and it doesn't make any difference who crosses what border. Linda in Maryland sent this to me. Mike, I just saw a very sad sight on local Baltimore television. A father held up a picture of his son who was killed last night in Iraq. His son was aboard the helicopter that crashed. The father said while holding up his son's picture, "I want you to see this, Bush. This was my only son." Neighbors and family were all standing outside around this man in tears. The news reporter said that the family was not at all in favor of this war. This young Marine sergeant had told his wife before he left that he didn't think he would make it back alive. How many other sad stories will there be? The young man's name was Kendall Waters Bay. I want you to see this, Bush. This was my only son. How many times could that be repeated in Iraq today? And not just dead Americans or dead British. How much blood is on George Bush's hands? What a murderer. What an unconscionable murderer. Carlos is calling from Columbus, Ohio. Hey, Carlos, our Latin American bureau chief.
Hey, Mike.
Oh, not very good, huh?
Yeah, I'm not.
I know.
I'm not gonna ask how you're doing because
I understand.
I can figure that out. I'm trying to get my thoughts together here. Yeah. The reason why I called, I wanted to propose an idea, but first I wanted to pick up on something that one of your callers said, which was that people should know that we're not all like that and we're better, and it's Bush. Well, if I have time to say this, my best friend works at a hospital. He's a radiology technician, so, he works with nurses, doctors, all that good stuff.
Right.
And the people there, besides the usual really toxic Midwestern type of really sick comments like we should nuke him, this and that, I've been sharing with people the pictures that you provided with the Iraqi children.
Oh, yeah, on my website.
Affected by depleted uranium. Yeah, I come from a pretty, neighborhood where I came from, you don't see many men crying and all that stuff. I had to hold, my tears back, and I'm not ashamed to say it. What the hell,
Sure.
That still makes me 20 times more of a man than Bush will ever hope to be.
Yeah.
But one girl, when he was explaining this to her, they never want to read or see any of the emails that I send them. They don't have time. They say he's crazy. He's some kind of weirdo for saying the things he says. Anyway, when he was explaining this to them, this one girl that he was trying to date or whatever, she said, well, why are they having children? Why are they having children if that stuff's going on?
The Iraqis?
Yeah. Why are they bothering to have children if supposedly they have all this other stuff?
And
That's how she dismissed it. You see what I'm saying?
And he wanted to marry this woman?
No, he wanted to date her.
He wanted to date her?
He dug her. Yeah, he's a single guy, so, he'll get whatever. And he told me that, and he was like, so what you're saying is that they shouldn't have kids like we, me, you, or I, or anyone?
Yeah.
And that just shows you that we're very sick,
I know.
caveman-like society. Okay, I'm not saying this is everyone. I know there's you, there's your wife, there's tons of people, very decent. The people are protesting. I have a lot of love for them. But there's also a lot of people that make the world hate us with their attitudes, with their indifference,
right,
with their just bloodlust, and I don't know. I don't have words for that. For someone who works this is the point I'm trying to make. For someone that works in healthcare, to say that these people shouldn't even, why are they bothering to have kids? It's like they're some kind of animal.
I know.
That are, but okay, enough of that. I wanted to ask you, are you aware of people like protesting up in CNN since you live in Georgia? I haven't heard the show today, so I don't know if you mentioned that.
There's a protest scheduled for tomorrow at noon that's supposed to form up at noon tomorrow in downtown Atlanta. I would imagine that's not very far from CNN. Atlanta City, the downtown is not that big. I believe there was one last night. that shut down Peachtree Street, which is one of the main drags in Atlanta, right at rush hour. So tomorrow, Saturday, I don't know what's going to happen tonight, but I do know that one is planned for noon tomorrow in downtown Atlanta, is where where people are supposed to meet. And then I don't know if they're going to move the 4 or 5 blocks from there to CNN Center.
I hope so, because, I mean, taking a page from what Venezuelans did up in their country when they took their protests to the gates of Globovisión and Venevisión and the rest of that right-wing junk that they have over there, it made people that didn't even agree with them wonder, well, what are they doing there? Why would you go to a network? What does that mean? You know, what are people doing out there? And it made a lot of people see that, you know, they know, they're telling them, we know you're lying, we know you're complicit, and we're not going to leave here until we show the world that you're a bunch of bastards. And that's what I think we should do here. CNN, Fox, you know, fine, yeah, we're not going to change. You know, O'Reilly is still going to be a piece of, I'm not trying to get you kicked off the air here. But, you know, all these people are going to be what they are. But I want to hold a mirror to their face, and that guy, Aaron Brown, and the rest of these, and I don't want to call them whores, because whores, they serve a certain purpose in society.
Yeah, whores are on.
Yeah, I don't want to insult them.
Yeah, I hate to use the term dogs, curs, but they're good dogs.
Right. Yeah, no, dogs are noble creatures.
Disease.
Yeah, there you go. Disease. You know, fine. That's exactly right, because to call them anything close to human, I mean, they know what's going on. What, you think they don't know what we're doing? And they're just sitting there day in and day out just lying through their teeth. And you know, most people, you tell them, well, you know, the media is full of it. They lie. And they'll say, well, no, you know, maybe they're sensationalistic or this, but they'll never lie. You know, they don't do that. And I want people to just go there, civil disobedience. I mean, I'm not telling one to do anything. I mean, you know, it's fine for me to say it sitting here in my chair. But I would like to encourage people and to use your show as a platform and spread the idea. It's wherever you have some big media conglomerate or whatever or corporation close to your headquarters, go there and make those people come out with their cameras and show you. And because you know what these people do, it's like they do in Fox. They go to the guy that's probably high and with the blue hair and ask him, well, what do you think we should do? Because I literally saw that on Fox News one time. You see?
Yeah.
So I want people to go there and to tell them to their face what they are. And hopefully, I mean, I don't know, maybe someone will drag, you know, I don't know, Chris Matthews by his genitals and tar and feather him. Am I going overboard here?
Yeah, quite a bit.
Is that, okay, I'm sorry.
But I understand.
So drag him by the hair.
You are certainly, you know, it's funny. We're talking about whether or not you're using bad language, or I've used bad language today, or a couple other people have used bad language on this program today, and we attacked a third world country in a 5,000-year-old area of the world and wreaked death and destruction, and you and I have to worry about our language. Isn't that nice?
Well, you know what, Mike? One thing, they are brown, and you know that us brown people, we're not really quite that human. So, you know,
I hear you.
It's easy to dismiss. You know, that's the attitude. That's what I get from people where I work. I've started saying some things today nobody wanted to hear, so why am I going to waste my time? You know, I hope they can learn one day, but...
It's an awful day. It's an awful, awful day. Carlos, thanks for calling in.
Well, thank you for listening, man.
You bet. Take care. 5 before the hour. Abram is calling from Santa Fe. Welcome to the program, Abram.
Hi, Mike.
Hey.
It's been a while. I just have one short comment to make. Well, if there's only 30% of us left here, April 15th is coming up soon, and we can all simply just refuse to pay our requested dues this time.
I wish that such a thing were possible, but you and I both know then what that entails. I guess people who are willing to take that risk, we are dealing with a madman and his government. I think what we need to do, my opinion, is just to be in the streets. I don't know. I don't know what else to do. Your idea is good. Yes, it is a good idea.
Ultimately, it hits them where it hurts. I mean, it means putting, each one of us putting ourselves on the line and being willing to volunteer for the nearest internment camp. But, it certainly, there's a lot lot of money going down, raining down on Baghdad right now. They got to pay for it somehow.
Yeah, they sure do. Thanks,
Thanks
Abram.
for having me on, Mike.
No, thank you, sir, for calling.
Okie doke.
All right, take care. Zeph is calling from Santa Fe. Zeph, welcome to the program. This is
Mike.
Your first time calling, right?
Yes, it is. I just want to let you and the listeners know that Bush's God, Satan, knocked the satellite out here, and so we didn't have you
on KTRC.
Yeah, it's no, you're still out. It's still out. And if it goes back on at 4 o'clock, then I smell a rat.
No, I don't think that'd be the case. KTRC management loves the program, both mine and Peter's. So I'm sure there was some kind of technical difficulty. Who knows what it is? I'm sure we'll be back by Monday.
It just, like I say, Satan does have the power to do that, and that is the God that with a little g that little Bush serves.
Doesn't he?
I mean,
he does.
Come on, it was Skull and Bones and all his affiliations and oaths, and he's never said what he's born again into. He never says, well, I'm born again in Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean, Jesus has gotten such a bad rap. This is horrible because, who would Jesus bomb? No one.
Maybe he would bomb George. Hey, Zeph, we're flat out of time.
Okay.
Please call back again. We'd love to hear from you. And I know that your first call, we have to cut it off. But thank you so much.
All right, Godspeed, Mike.
All right, take care. Program today engineered in Detroit by Stephanie Stryker, produced here in Atlanta by Catherine Bay. Robin Bittman announces for us. My name is Mike Malloy. I'll see you Monday, I hope. Do take care.